Dr. Noah is known worldwide as the father of affirmations, the mental health coach to the stars. Working with Hollywood celebrities, 8-figure companies, CEOs, professional athletes, top executives, and elite entrepreneur, Noah is famous for helping his coaching clients make in 12 weeks than they did in the past 12 months while winning their lives back. Dr. Noah has appeared in over 1,000 media outlets, including ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, Entrepreneur, and the Jenny McCarthy Show, and Success Magazine. Dr. Noah, appreciate you being here. It's my pleasure to have you. Thank you for coming.
My pleasure, Martin. Great to be here with you.
Thank you, sir. So I'm going to, for selfish reasons, I want to know, how is it working with top athletes? Can you name any top athlete, top actresses and actors? How is it working with those guys? Those guys are, playing at their top level. They're at the top of their game. How do you, how is it with those guys? How's their ego? I want to know how you manage them as their coach. These guys, I would imagine these guys have big egos, right? Hey, I'm the best. I'm good. I'm at the top of my game. Like,
right.
I like to get your feedback on that. That's not one of my official questions. That's an unofficial question. I just want to know what that's like working with those
guys.
Yeah.
I tell you what, if you go to coachingwithnoah.com, you can see a listing of some of the folks that I've had a chance to help and coach and work with, coachingwithnoah.com. But basically, everybody who is already at the top of their game, right? Like elite athletes, 7- and 8-figure CEOs, Hollywood celebrities, what do they want? They want to stay there, right? And they want an edge. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for an edge. They're looking for how they can stay relevant, how they can stay on top. Because the old saying is, once you're on top, there's only one way to go, and that's down. Yeah. And of course, nobody wants to do that. So that's why, when people do hire me to coach them, whether it's one-on-one coaching or group coaching, they really are looking for that edge. Now, the truth is that I also work with just everyday average entrepreneurs, real estate investors, real estate professionals, chiropractors, health professionals, nurses, network marketers. So it's not just those elite people that I do have the opportunity to help and to serve, but also everyday entrepreneurs and real estate people. And the truth is that I've helped my clients as a collective to add over $3 billion collectively, meaning I've helped people from all walks of life to add multiple 6 figures, 7 figures, and even 8 figures using my methods, even after they had tried everything else before, after they'd spent lots of money on everybody else out there, and they kept hitting that income ceiling, as I call it. So for the folks who want to really break through their income ceiling and really have that edge over their competition, that's who I get to help.
That's amazing. Why is it important to have a coach? The average person think that's kind of woo-woo, right? Like they think that's kind of weird. Well, why do I need a coach for, right? And what I found is that the best athletes, the best of the best, always have a coach, right? The best entrepreneurs, the best of the best.
That's right.
Can you tell us why those guys have coaches? Why would just a regular guy with a small chiropractic office or a guy in a W-2 that's looking, that's maybe making 6 figures or 70 or 80,000 a year and is looking to elevate his game and get to the top?
Well, it's really very simple. And the statement is that you can't see the outside of the bottle when you're in the bottle. Now, we are all in our own little bottles, aren't we? Every one of us, we're all in our own little universe. And imagine if you're in a bottle, you can't see the outside of the bottle. You can't see what's on the label from inside the bottle. Another analogy that I also love to use is, imagine if you're trying to read a book. Let's say like, here's one of my books, for example, called The 7-Figure Expert. Imagine if you're trying to read a book and you go like this, right? And here's the book right up against your face. You really can't read, you can't read the book. And see, that's where we all are with our own problems. I'm sure many of the folks listening to the program today have seen the phenomenon where they can solve everyone else's problems, but they have trouble solving their own problems, and that's the way it is for everybody. And so I really believe that, when you look at, as you mentioned, when you look at the greatest athletes, the greatest entrepreneurs, the highly successful people that we look up to, they all have, if not one, many times multiple coaches. Top athletes, they'll have a health coach, they'll have a nutrition coach, they'll have a flexibility coach, they'll have a mental health coach, right? And so really depending on the level that you're at and the level you want to get to, that really is the reason why you do need to have and want to have a coach.
You mentioned that you have helped, entrepreneurs collectively over eight figures, right? And using your methods. Can you give us one or two or three methods that you would use with a client, maybe from your book, from your your book there that you just shared with us? You can give us a few strategies. Let's give the audience some meat and potatoes on how they can maybe get better from.
Absolutely, sure. So let me just talk a little about one of my new books called The 7-Figure Expert, where I give you my 7-Figure Expert formula. So this is something that I have developed over 30 years of helping people to make a lot of money, but also to win their lives back. And I find those two things to be very important. There's a lot of people out there that I call the hustle bros that are teaching that if you want to make a lot of money, if you want to be successful, all you need to do is work 14, 16, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and don't see your family, don't take vacations, don't take breaks. And my argument is, are you kidding me? I mean, that doesn't sound like a life. So what I teach that's different is I teach methods and systems whereby you actually get to have your business serve your life rather than you living for your business, right? That's the purpose of your business, should be for you to live the life of your choosing, not the other way around. So many entrepreneurs, real estate investors, people get stuck in that I'm living for my business. And that is really not the way you want to be. That's actually backwards. So when you look at my 7-Figure Expert formula, it's really a 5-phase formula. There's 5 phases. So the 5 phases are 7-figure beliefs, 7-figure habits, 7-figure offers, 7-figure funnels, and 7-figure traffic. So it's beliefs, habits, offers, funnels, traffic. That's it. So we start with what I call the inner game, right? The inner game is everything that happens between your ears that you can't see directly, but it's affecting everything that you do. And we have to start with the inner game because when you build your business, it's like building a house. You have to start with the foundation. And what a lot of entrepreneurs are doing are that they're saying, hey, gee, I really want to have, I want to have a house. So they're running around all day slapping boards together. And meanwhile, they don't have a plan. They don't have a blueprint. And they go, gee, it's awfully drafty in here. It's kind of cold. Well, that's because nobody gave you the plan. And so we have to start from the inside out. Let me give you a real life example. So I was speaking at a seminar in Los Angeles and talking about exactly what I'm sharing with you right now. And I was finishing up my presentation. I just finished. I was walking off the stage. A man came up to me out of the audience and he said, Noah, you are the coach I've been looking for. I want to hire you as my coach. Now, I didn't know this man from Adam. Ironically, his name was Adam. True story. And so I said, okay, what's going on? And he said, well, Noah, my company is at 7 figures and we have been at the 7-figure level for the last 4 years, but we haven't grown at all. And we keep hitting that income ceiling that you just talked about. And he said, as soon as I heard you talk about inner game and outer game and your 7-figure expert formula and getting your foot off the brake and everything you just said, he said, I knew that you were the coach I've been looking for. And he also told me that he'd spent all this money on all these other coaches, but he just couldn't break through that income ceiling. It was all the marketing guys and all the gurus out there, but he couldn't break through that income ceiling. So he decided to hire me on the spot. Now, that's why I love working with high achievers, right? Because they make decisions quickly and firmly. They don't dilly-dally. They don't mess around. They don't waste time. So he hired me on the spot. I coached him for 18 months. And in that 18 months, we were able to get his company that had been stuck at the 7-figure level for the previous 4 years to over 20 million in revenues in less than 18 months. Now, how did I do it? I did it by exactly what I'm saying right now. I helped him. I gave him the formula, the framework that I call my Power Habit System. That's my framework that I've been teaching for almost 30 years now. The power habits of unconsciously successful people. And I walked him through that. I showed him exactly why, number one, why he was holding himself back from success. And number two, how to stop stopping himself from the level of success he was capable of. And just because of that inner game work, he was able to scale the company over 600% in less than 18 months. You can go right and you can actually watch his video. It's right there on my website. You can actually watch his and of course, many other case study videos. But the point of the story is what I'm saying is that if you ignore the inner game, or if no one's taught it to you, then it's going to be awfully hard to break through that income ceiling. And that's why it's so crucial.
So we talked about beliefs, and you talked about the power habits of unconsciously successful people. What does that mean?
It's a lot to unpack, but it's actually pretty simple. So when you think about highly successful people, the people we all look up to, the Elon Musk, the Bill Gates, the Richard Branson, the Mark Cubans of the world, right? They're all very successful. And so what happens is that many people have tried over the years, interviewed highly successful people like that, and they say, well, what do they do, right? What are the habits that they have? And so books like Think and Grow Rich, right? That's a classic book in self-help, right? Great book. A lot of people love that book. The problem is, how come so many people have read books like that and they're still not successful? They still keep hitting that income ceiling. The reason is because of what I discovered 27 years ago, which is that highly successful people are doing unconscious habits. They're unconsciously doing these habits that they don't even know they're doing, number one, and therefore, number two, they can never teach it to you. Because when you look at human behavior, our habits actually fall into these 4 distinct phases. When we're trying to develop a new habit, we go through 4 phases. The first phase is unconscious incompetence. That means you don't know, you don't know. The second stage is conscious incompetence. That means you don't know. The third stage is conscious competence, which is you know. And then the final stage is unconscious competence, which is you do without thinking. So as I tell my audience members, when I'm doing keynote presentations or workshops for companies, teams, organizations around the country and around the world, I'll often use the example of driving a car, right? Probably everybody listening to this program right now knows how to drive a car. The point is that you actually had to go through those 4 stages that I just talked about in order to do this habit called drive a car. First, you didn't know how to drive a car. Then you knew you didn't know how to drive a car. Then you learned how to drive a car, but it was really hard at the beginning, right? Remember driving a car at the very beginning? It's really hard. I remember when I took driver's ed a long time ago, we had the car that we used in my class, my school, was a Buick about the size of a city block, so it was really hard to drive, and there was a ton of stuff coming at you. But now, of course, today, for the majority of people listening to this program, you actually do this without thinking. You are literally not thinking about this thing that used to be really hard. Well, what I realized many years ago is it's exactly the same with success. These highly successful people are doing these habits, but they're doing them unconsciously. And therefore, they don't even know they're doing them because they're unconscious. And therefore, they can never teach it. Because if you're unconscious of something, you don't even know that you're doing it. So how could you possibly teach it? The answer is you can't. And so that's where my work comes in. And that's what makes it different, because a lot of people have spent a lot of time, money, and energy on all of the conscious things, like, as I call it, the outer game, right? All of the marketing stuff, like Adam, my client I was just telling you about, right? He'd spent lots of money, gone to all the gurus, and he wasn't necessarily doing anything wrong. But because they were not even aware of these habits, then how could they possibly teach them? They can't. So that's why when he heard me speak, he goes, oh my gosh, this is the missing piece. This is the piece that I've been missing all these years. And sure enough, it was.
Can you give us an example of those high achievers, unconscious competent habits that they might have?
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned in your introduction that I'm known as the father of affirmations. Well, this is one of the foundational power habits that I discovered many years ago. And by the way, for the folks listening, I just want you to know that I'm using a new word. This is one of
affirmations is afform.
Affirmations. You see that there? AFFORMATIONS. And then you can even go to affirmations.com and learn more about my affirmations advantage, my affirmations advantage method. So, of course, everybody listening to this program knows what an affirmation is, right? That's what the gurus have been teaching us for decades.
Yep.
An affirmation is a statement of something we want to be true. So in my keynote speeches, another thing I like to do, when I'm speaking to teams or organizations around the world, I like to have everyone stand up and I say, okay, we're going to do an affirmation just like everybody has taught us for decades. And everybody say, I am rich. And everybody goes, I am rich. You know what happens next? Everyone starts laughing. And I go, what are you laughing at? And they go, well, I'm not rich. And I say, but you just said you were. And they go, yeah, but I don't believe it. See, isn't that the problem with the old method, right? The old way says, well, you just say these statements and say them over and over again, and eventually you'll believe it someday. Well, for some people that worked just fine, but for millions of us, it didn't work at all. In fact, a scientific study was done on this very topic, and they found that 3 out of 4, get this, 75% of the people that use the old method, the affirmation method, actually end up more frustrated than before. So imagine if you had a smartphone that didn't work 3 out of the 4 times you went to use it. You'd probably get a new phone, wouldn't you? Well, that's what I invented. I invented a new phone for your brain. All right. So my affirmations method is, rather than saying statements that we don't believe, instead, what I teach is to use empowering questions, because the human mind responds automatically to questions. So rather than saying something like, and by the way, when I discovered this in 1997, I'd been using the affirmations method for years because, of course, that's all that was out there. That was the only tool available. It's like if you go into Home Depot, you're trying to build a house, and all they had was chainsaws. That was the only tool they had. And they say, well, you can have a green chainsaw, you can have a yellow chainsaw, you can have a red chainsaw. And you're like, well, I want a hammer.
You need a hammer,
yeah. Good luck. So the point is, I invented a hammer, right? A hammer meaning it's a tool. It's another tool so you can reach your goals up to 10 times faster. So the statement is, I did this. I had these Post-it notes all over my walls. I'm happy, I'm rich, I'm successful. Meanwhile, the reality was, no, I'm not. I'm unhappy, broke, and miserable. So that's the point. And so when I discovered my affirmations method, I realized that the brain has an embedded presupposition factor. That very simply means when you ask a question, your brain automatically searches for the answer. So I said, why are we going around making statements we don't believe when the human mind responds automatically to something even more powerful, the power of questions? And so rather than saying a statement like, I am rich, to which your brain goes, yeah, right? I mean, I literally call it the yeah, right response, because your brain goes, yeah, right. So now, using my affirmations method, you would say something like this: why am I so rich? Why am I so happy? Why am I always in the right place at the right time? And because of the embedded presupposition factor of the brain, your brain automatically searches for answers to questions. And so that, my affirmations method, is part of my... What's that?
It's powerful.
It is powerful, and it is literally life-changing. Wow. It is literally life-changing. And I could give you so many stories and case studies of people who've used my affirmations method to change their lives, to make more money, to lose weight after they'd tried everything else, to complete projects that they'd been procrastinating on for months or years, to find love. I had one couple in Germany. They wrote me on social media and they said, Noah, we were ready to get a divorce. We had our divorce papers on the table ready to be signed. That's how close they were to divorce. You can't get any closer than that, right? Yeah. Like, here you go, sign here and we're divorced. They heard my affirmations method on a radio program, got my affirmations program online, started studying it. They instantly changed their brain, their thought patterns. They tore up their divorce papers, and now they're madly in love again and best friends again. I mean, just so many stories like that of people's lives who changed simply by using my affirmations method. It's incredibly powerful.
That is so powerful. Wow. And that's in your book. And
yes, sir.
Doc, I'm a reader and I'm a student of, I don't know how I haven't found your book, man. I'm going to pick up that book today. I don't know.
Here we are, right here. Affirmations. You can go to affirmations.com and affirmationsbook.com. So there's 2 sites there. Affirmations is the online course, and Affirmations book is the book from Hay House.
I'm picking up that book today. I'm adding it to the repertoire today, brother. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
What is the biggest myth that entrepreneurs or individuals have about making money, and you have to work hard to make money, right? And making money bias, right? What is the biggest myth you find around that, and how do you coach people around that mindset on, how to become wealthy and changing that poor mindset?
Yeah. I think one of the biggest myths that's out there is, as you just said, that, it takes money to make money. Now, of course, with all of these myths, there's a grain of truth in that. Of course, if you have more money, it's a lot easier to make money, right? I mean, of course, that's true. But I started my company, successclinic.com, in 1997 with $800 to my name and a book on HTML. That's all I had. I had nothing. I had no money, no marketing experience, no sales, no business acumen, no skills of any kind. But I just had one thing that really was what I know a lot of people have as well, especially a lot of people listening to this program, and that is a deep burning desire to make an impact, to make a difference, to, as Steve Jobs put it, to put a dent in the universe. And so even though I didn't have any money and I really didn't have any skills, that's what I had, and that's really all I had. And so I had to learn it the hard way, going, from nothing, starting from nothing. And, now I've been able to, build a very nice life for myself and my family and help my clients make over $3 billion, as I mentioned. And so what I really want to encourage people to remember is what I call the single most important mindset shift that you need to become a 6 or 7 or even an 8-figure entrepreneur. And that really comes down to these 3 very, very important words. And that is money loves speed. Money loves speed. And what do I mean by that? Well, I coach a lot of people who one of their biggest issues is procrastination, right? They're putting it off until tomorrow. And they're like, well, and of course, tomorrow never comes, right? I'll give you a quick example. Another one of my clients named David, he had been watching my videos and listening to me, and he decided to hire me to coach him one-on-one. And he, he's a great client. He does, I tell him to do something, he goes and does it and gets great results. And one of the things that he wanted to do was, of course, increase his income, which we've been able to almost double his income, as well as double his time off. But even more importantly, he's been able to become healthier. He's lost about 25 pounds since we have been working together. And one of the ways that he's done that is he decided to join a gym. Now, I didn't talk to him about this at all. I didn't say, hey, David, you really need to go join a gym. This was just a result of what happened as a result of using and installing these power habits. He decided that he wanted to lose weight and decided to join a gym. Well, what was fascinating is I asked him, I said, hey, David, I'm really proud of you. I'm so glad that you're doing that you're committed to your health. And I was just curious, where is that gym that you decided to join? He goes, oh, it's right across the street from my office. I said, really? And I said, how long has that gym been there? And how long have you been there in that office? He said, oh, about 20 years. Do you see what I mean? It was sitting there the whole time, but he just, because he was procrastinating, he was holding himself back, it was never there. So it was like right over their head, right? But as soon as he started to install these habits, he's like, maybe I need to, as well as make more money, I think I also want to be healthier. So do you see, it's not only about money, it's really about your whole life.
Yeah, I'm processing this. This is such great, powerful information, Doc. I'm processing this, and it's like the old saying, where your focus goes, energy flows and results show. That's right. And when you are asking yourself this question, like you said, power habits questions, and I don't know if you call it the affirmations, like, why am I so rich?
Yeah.
We're having this conversation, and I'm listening to it, and I'm like, man, this is so powerful. And I'm saying to myself, hey, why am I so this? And it's creating an emotion inside of me. Like, guys, I want you, the listeners, to really try this yourself right now, and try this in your own head. Because I believe in the mental game is more important than the exterior game, just like you. The conversations I'm having with myself, how I'm talking to myself impacts my results. But man, framing it in these questions, framing it that way is super, super powerful. because it creates a powerful emotion inside. It really does. Like, it just, I like to pay attention to what it creates in my body, and it really does create a powerful emotion. So if you guys are listening and watching, try it, because it's really powerful. So you gave us one. I like to maybe you could give us something else we could sink our teeth in that these really high achievers do consciously, unconscious, that they cannot teach. Give us an example of something that, that the gurus would tell you all about, but they do it, obviously, right? They know how to do it. They've got this gift. They tapped into this thing, but they don't know how to duplicate it. They don't know how to share it with others so others can model it. Can you give us another example of that, Doc?
Absolutely. So when you look at your goals, right? Everybody listening to this program, we all have goals. Every human has goals, right? We humans are goal-oriented organisms. We're always thinking about and planning about what we want, whether it's to make more money in our business, whether it's to get a promotion in our job, whether it's to, buy a new house, get a new car, or have a ham sandwich for lunch. We're always thinking about the things that we want. But here's what nobody talks about. What happens after you set that goal? All right. So let me give you an example. Let's say you have a business and you're saying, hey, Noah, I want to make an additional $10K a month in my business, right? Very great goal, common goal, because $10K a month, what does that mean? It means 6 figures a year. So that's adding 6 figures a year to your business, right? Great goal, very common. Okay. So you say, hey, Noah, I want to make that extra $10K a month in my business. But what nobody talks about is what happens right after you set that goal. And here's what happens for most people. Most people go like this. Hey, Noah, I want to make an additional $10K a month in my business, but I probably can't do it. I really don't have the time. It's going to be too hard. Oh, I can't afford it. I don't have the money. Oh, what if my spouse doesn't want me to do it? Or, oh, it's going to take too much time away from my family. Or, oh man, I tried so many things before and it didn't work, so that's probably not going to work again. Do you see what I just did? I literally just psyched myself out of the very thing that I want. Now, what I call that is your head trash. And in fact, I've written 25 books. You can't really see them behind me, but they're on my bookshelf behind me. I've written 25 books on this one subject, how to take out the head trash that's actually holding you back. So let me give you an example of exactly how this works. I was talking with one of my clients named Charles. Now, Charles came to me. He actually told me that he was in Barnes & Noble and he passed by my book 3 times and it just called out to him, he said, and he finally had to buy it and he bought it. And then he contacted me on my website and, wanted to hire me to coach him, to help him. And so I asked him a question that I ask all of my clients, whether it's one-on-one or group coaching. And I said, Charles, how much do you think your head trash is costing you right now? In other words, if we don't take out your head trash, how much do you think you're going to lose out on in the next 12 months? Without batting an eye, he instantly said $1 million. He said, Noah, if I don't take out this head trash that you talk about, I'm easily going to lose out on $1 million in the next 12 months. And I said, first of all, Charles, that's very common. I talk to people every single day and they say, Noah, my head trash is costing me $500,000, $1 million, $2 million a year or more. And so I said, that's very common. So don't beat yourself up. Don't feel bad. That's the first thing. The second thing is I said, why don't you just give me 10% of that million and I will find you $1 million in the next 12 months. In other words, if you give me $1 and I give you $10 back, is that a good deal? And he goes, well, yeah, that's a good deal. So he decided to do that. He actually decided on the spot to hire me and I coached him one-on-one for a year and he invested $100K to do that, right? That's 10% of $1 million, $100K, right? So he did that. He decided to do that right on the spot. Well, I love working with high achievers, right? He didn't dilly-dally, didn't mess around. He just made that decision very quickly. So I coached him for a year. Now, as it turns out, I didn't find him $1 million in the next 12 months. Instead, I found him $1.8 million in just 10 months. So he gave me $1 and I gave him $18 back. Is that a good deal? No, that's a great deal. And actually, he sent me an email and he said, hey, Noah, guess where I am? I'm on a 7-week vacation with my wife. We just bought a new motorhome and we are traveling the country for the next 7 weeks. He said, this is a dream I've had for years, but I've never had the money I also never had the time. So now, because of what you taught me, I'm now not only making more money than ever, I also have more time than I've ever had. So this is how your head trash, without your knowledge, can be absolutely holding you back from reaching the level of success you're perfectly capable of right now.
So how does one manage their head trash? Like, what can one do? You know, maybe there's a listener out there that's just getting started and doesn't have $100,000 to hire Dr. Noah, right? But they're like, hey, this great stuff. I don't even make $100,000 a year. So how do I, you know, I'm sure you share some of this stuff in your book, but you know, how do I get rid of my head trash? What technique or what strategy can I use to clean up trash?
Absolutely. And yes, when you go to my website, you can see that we have a lot of different resources. You know, 100K and up is for people who are at that level and ready to invest. But we have a lot of other options as well. So it's not just that 100K. But my point is that the first thing that everybody listening to this program can do, the first thing that you do is, number one, write down what are the top 5 things that you want to accomplish in the next 12 months. Just the top 5 things. Now, a lot of people say, there's a lot of gurus that say, you know, write 100 things that you want. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying that generally speaking, when people do things like that, they tend to feel overwhelmed and actually more stuck than before. So I like to start with just 5. Just take your top 5. Okay. If you're really like, oh, but no, if 5's not up, fine, then do 10. That's fine. You know, whatever the number is, but don't make it any more than 10. Just take your top 10 or top 5. Okay. So there's your goal. So I already listed some different ones. You know, I want to add, and by the way, I do encourage you to make it very specific. Make it very specific, you know, because people say, gee, no, I really want to make more money. Okay, here's $5. Go away. No, you got to be a lot more specific than that, right? So, you know, I want to add an additional 10K a month, 30K, 50K, 100K a month, whatever that number is for you, you know, or I want to get that promotion at work. I want to lose the weight. I want to be happier in my marriage, whatever that, or, you know, I want to find the love of my life. We've helped people do all of the above and much more. All right. So that's the first thing to do. Then the second thing that you do is write down all the reasons why you think you can't do that thing. Now, this is the exact opposite of what the gurus say.
Yes.
Right? What the gurus say is find your why and find all the reasons why you should do it. No. Okay. Again, I'm not saying that's wrong. It's not that it's wrong. It's just that that's only half of the equation, right? That's only half. And actually, it's not even the most important half, because the most important half of the equation is why you think you can't do the thing you just said that you want to do, right? Because this is precisely what causes procrastination, which I talked about earlier, right? Hey, I really want to make more money in my business. I don't think I can do it. Let's go watch Netflix. Boom, there you go. I mean, I just explained procrastination in 3 sentences, you know? So the fact is, you need to understand why you're telling yourself you can't do it. And then the third thing to do is write down what it's costing you. What is it costing you to keep holding on to this head trash, right? Just like I asked my client, Charles, $1 million a year. Now, remember, that adds up year over year. It's not just 1 year that it's costing you this. I mean, if you don't get rid of your head trash, it's going to keep costing you really forever, right? So then, you know, as I mentioned, we have specific resources. We have books. You can go to my YouTube channel, watchnoahtv.com. You can watch videos. So I have a lot of free and entry point offers, as well as, of course, you know, coaching for group coaching and one-on-one coaching for people who really want my personal help. So I've given people lots and lots and lots of ways to take out the very, very thing that is, in fact, holding you back right now, that the gurus are just never going to tell you.
So what do you do next once you, okay, so someone writes, I want to make $10 million a year, right? Mm-hmm. And the reason is, well, I'm in a W-2 job, or whatever their reason is. You said, right now the reason is why you can't do it. I'm in a W-2 job. I don't own a business. Right. I don't have the skills, or whatever their mind, and I reject that for me and for you and our listeners, but whatever their mind says that they can't do it. What next? Okay, so now I know this is what my brain, my logical, conscious brain is telling me. Now, how do we work on the unconscious to get them past
Yep.
that? What's the next
very,
step?
very first thing you need to do is start using my affirmations method. So, like you just said, Martin, go get my book of affirmations, start using my affirmations method. That's the foundational power habit that, every highly successful person does without their knowledge, right? And then you need to realize what I talked about earlier, those 3 words that I said: money loves speed, or if you want to say success loves speed. So make sure whatever you do, don't wait. Make sure you're taking action. Make sure if you're going to start using my affirmations method, start today. And guess what? You can start today.
Start right now.
It's not something that's going to take you years and years. I mean, I basically just laid it out for you in 5 minutes.
You could get the book.
So
Are you on Audible?
Right away.
Are you on Audible? Is your book on Audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. The Book of Affirmations is on Audible. I also have a book called Millionaire Affirmations. So like I said, I've written 25 books on this subject. So there's really no excuse for someone to not know what to do next. I've laid it out very, very simply and very strategically and very step by step. So there just isn't any excuse to not get started today.
So Millionaire Affirmation. So that's
Yes.
So we're running out of time here, and I want to be respectful of your time. What would you how did you uncover this? I'm just curious. How did you uncover that highly achievers are not doing affirmations, but they're doing affirmations with a question? Man, this is for me, I just feel like I've discovered this. I've read a lot of books on personal development. I've read a lot of books on personal development, and I've learned this over the years. Tony Robbins actually teaches this. The quality of your life is dependent on the quality of the questions you ask. So what you're saying makes a lot of sense. But man, how did you discover this? That's the mental game that highly achievers are playing, and that's how they're managing their mindset with those questions.
It came from a lot of pain. All right. So I grew up poor in a rich neighborhood. And I hated being poor because I saw that right down the street, there's great wealth and abundance. I literally grew up in one of the wealthiest communities in all of the United States called Kennebunkport, Maine. A lot of people are familiar with that, but that's where I happened to grow up. But my family was dirt poor. And I mean that literally because we lived at the bottom of a dirt road in a drafty, unfinished house that my parents ended up losing to foreclosure when I was just 15 years old. So I grew up experiencing the gap, the chasm between the haves and the have-nots. The haves was everyone else in the community. The have-nots was my family. And so I hated being poor, and so I wanted a way out. So I just went to the library and read every book. I literally read every book in the self-help section, of my local library. And I really, really tried to make it work. But every book basically said the same thing. They said, use affirmations, write your goal. I mean, they all say the same thing, right? You just said it. You've read lots of books, and yet you've never heard what I just shared with you, in 40 minutes. And that's the point, is that I read all these books and they all said the same thing, but they just never worked for me and I couldn't get it to work. At the age of 25, in fact, I was so frustrated and depressed, I decided to commit suicide at age 25. I decided to take my own life because I'd been doing all this for so many years and I had nothing to show for it. Now, at the last moment, my life was spared. But I didn't know why at the time. And so I realized I've got to find my purpose here on the earth. What am I doing here? So I went back to the library and I read every book in the spiritual section. So having spent all of those years just studying and immersing myself in the success literature and the spiritual literature of our time, that's why in 1997, I had this epiphany. It was actually in the shower. It was in my books. I call it the shower that changed everything. You'll read all about it. The shower that changed everything. And that's when I realized, I'm sure everybody listening to this program has had those aha moments in the shower, right? Well, that's where mine was. And I've written 25 books as a result. So the point is that it was as a result of all of that pain and frustration because I tried what they said and it never worked. And so I said, there's got to be a better way, but what is it? And so when I discovered it, I realized, oh my gosh, this is my purpose on the earth. This is my purpose. And that's why I wrote my first book in 1998, and then it was subsequently published by the Chicken Soup for the Soul publisher in 1999. It was called Permission to Succeed. That was my first book. And now 25 books later, I'm actually the only author in history that's had works published by Hay House, HarperCollins, Simon & Schuster, Mind Valley, Nightingale Conant, and The Chicken Soup for the Sole Publisher. No other author in history has ever done that. So really, that's how it began, and that's how I discovered, these really, really important distinctions that have made a huge difference for millions of people around the world.
That's awesome. That it's interesting. I find that a lot with successful people, very successful people playing at the top of their game, such as yourself, is that they go through this period where they're in the valley.
That's right.
And they're self-discovering, and they're just grinding away, and they're, I remember praying and saying, God, just send me someone to teach me. I want someone to teach me. I don't want anything handed to me. When I was sleeping in the train and roof, and you're grinding away, and you're just asking and seeking it. And then all of a sudden it just God puts the people, whatever you believe in. I happen to believe in God and Jesus. And that just puts the people in your life, in your world, and all of a sudden just things kind of start to click, and all of the information you've gathered. And that's what I'm gathering here, all those years of studying. And you said something really key, total immersion. And I believe there's a great book that just came to my mind as I'm saying this, is the One Thing by Gary Keller. I don't know if you've read that book. And it's basically all about total immersion, right? Like, hey, focus on the thing. What's the thing? What's the thing that you're good at? For me, it's real estate. I'm a real estate guy. And that's the thing I want. That's the thing. I love talking to people. I love learning, right? I love doing this, learning, curious, and working on myself and getting better. I love teaching as well. The business I chose is real estate to be in. So I salute you and congratulations for your achievement, Doc. Really, really, congratulations. Great stuff. Thank you for coming on the show and sharing your wisdom, your insights, and all of your years of expertise and studying and total immersion. It truly, truly shows here in these last 40 minutes we spent together. If folks wanted to get a hold of you, they wanted to connect with you, maybe on social media, you've mentioned some of your books, you've mentioned some of your websites and things in this conversation, but if we're going to put this all of this in the show notes, but how can people connect with you? How can people follow you? Where do they find you? Where's your YouTube? You mentioned YouTube. Can you give us all of those resources so we can follow and connect with you as a community?
Absolutely. So if you want to get this book, it's called The 7-Figure Expert. This is absolutely perfect for real estate investors and real estate professionals, but also anybody who wants to make more money in their expert business or online business. So you can get this book for free. The book is free. I've covered the cost of the book. We just ask you to cover the shipping. So just go to 7figureexpertbook.com. Very easy to remember. 7figureexpertbook.com. The book is free. Just cover shipping. And if you want to actually have a breakthrough call with me or one of my coaches, just go to breakthroughwithnoah.com. Easy to remember. I'm known as the breakthrough coach, right? So breakthroughwithnoah.com. And there's a short video there, and just schedule a time there. It's a 15-minute, very fast-paced call, breakthrough call, and we can actually show you how you can implement this in your business, give you a 3-step action plan, so you'll walk away with that plan, to really rapidly grow your business at breakthroughwithnoah.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Noah. Really, really appreciate your wisdom and insights. I mean, I gained a ton just in these last 40 minutes that we spent here together, and I'm sure the audience did as well. Thank you, sir. Really, really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.